guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Beating Various Attorney Trials and Tribulations. In the last episode, we confirmed with Iris that Dahlia Hawthorne is indeed her sister, and we found out from Pearl that upon her mother's orders, she tried to channel Dahlia Hawthorne, but was unable to, and she, poured gravy all over the scroll of the Master. So, I wonder if this is all just an elaborate scheme posed by Morgan Fay. But yeah. Now we're going to be going into the final trial. This is a really, really, really long trial. I checked, and it's even longer than Rise from the Ashes, so this is going to be a fun one, guys. Stick with me. Stick with me. Alright, let's get going. February 10th, 9:39 a.m., District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 1.
Good morning. Oh? Are you by yourself?
Morning, Pearls.
Mr. Nick, please tell me, what's gonna happen to Mystic Maya?
I'm sorry. We don't know yet. The investigation is still going on, so I wasn't allowed into the Inner Temple.
Oh, I see. So is Sister Iris still trying to remove those trick locks in the training hall?
No. She's the defendant in this case, so she can't be at the Inner Temple. She's required to be here in court.
Then how come she's not here in the defendant's lobby?
I have to admit, it's kind of strange. If you're looking... Edgeworth. What's Iris doing over there? She's going over today's testimony with the prosecutor as we speak. Today's testimony? You heard me. Iris is going to be testifying as a witness for the prosecution. Wait, what? The prosecutor is squeezing her for a confession, or so I heard. Nope. Franziska von Karma, what are you up to? I know what you're thinking, but Franziska isn't going to be the prosecutor today. What? Then who is? Who else would it be but Godot? Godot? Franziska is engaged in some important work at the Sacred Cavern.
The Sacred Cavern? You don't mean that she's...
Exactly. She has been out there all night trying to remove those trick locks, with the head nun's assistance, naturally. We estimate that the last of the locks should be taken care of in about 3 hours. I hope everything continues to go smoothly and we receive some good news soon. Yeah, thanks, Edgeworth. Prosecutor Godot intends to nail this case shut today. Be prepared to fight like there's no tomorrow. You don't have to tell me that. I know. I can already see it in your eyes. You're not the same fever-ridden, frantic maniac you were yesterday. It's strange. On the way here, I decided that today would be the end of all of this. Almost immediately after I made that decision, I felt myself getting stronger. Interesting. Maybe you've passed your cold on to someone else, literally. And with that, I leave the rest in your capable hands, partner. Thanks. I still don't have answers for most of the riddles plaguing this case. The circumstances around the murder of Miss Elise Misty Fay. The impossible flight Larry claims to have seen. And what that woman is really after. I will solve them all and bring this whole tragedy to an end. February 10th, 10 a.m. at District Court, courtroom number 7. Court is now in session for the trial of Iris at Huazakur Temple. Your Honor? What are you... Who, me? Well, my little brother came to visit me in my chambers earlier this morning. All of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, he developed a scorching fever and fainted. Therefore, I'll be standing in for him. I see, Your Honor. So they're brothers. That explains a lot. My poor brother. He looked a bit pale. Not to mention that sad that he couldn't be here. It is impossible to predict what the future has in store for any of us. This is precisely why people feel the need to judge the past, and we of the court have been charged with the solemn duty of passing such judgment. Well said, Mr. Godot. I understand exactly what you said, at least up until the end anyway. Now then, Mr. Godot, please proceed with your opening statement. Humans are fragile, fickle beings. Our hearts change with the shifting of the tides. There is only one thing that remains a constant in this crazy world. The bitter darkness that lies at the bottom of this mug. So then you mean... forget it. What do you mean? During yesterday's trial, the accused refused to admit her role in the crime, but today, she has had a change of heart. Sister Iris of Hazakura Temple has a confession to make. Confession? The defendant? Iris, why didn't she discuss this with me first? Very well. This court will now hear the defendant's confession. Upon meeting a beautiful lady, always ask for her name and profession. That's one of my rules.
My name is Iris. I am but a simple nun undergoing training at Hazakura Temple.
Witness, is there something that you want to confess to?
Yes, but first, I want to apologize to Mr. Wright. I can't continue lying to everyone anymore.
It's alright. What is it?
Mr. Wright, I have to admit that I did play a part in this terrible incident.
Oh, are you actually confessing? Are you saying that you were the one who murdered Miss Elise Denim?
No, I'm not, Your Honor. But I dealt with the cover-up after the murder took place. After her spirit left, I took the lifeless shell of Mystic Elise and carried it to the Hazakura Temple courtyard where I desecrated it.
What? Order in the court! Order! Witness, are you saying you were an accomplice to the murder?
Yes, that's correct.
What? 3 minutes in court and I'm already covered in a cold sweat. Ha! Everyone on the planet is an accomplice to something. It just happens to be that in this case, it's to murder. Isn't that right, Mr. Troit? Like a dough. So this is the confession they were conferring about. It pains me to say this, but it looks like Iris's testimony was all a lie. Now then, little lady, if you don't mind, I've got a question for you. Whose crime were you trying to cover up by your actions? Iris was covering for someone? No, I'm definitely up the creek without a paddle or a life jacket.
I've been at Hazakura Temple ever since I was a little girl. Hazakura Temple is run by one of the branch families of the Quran tradition. One of our missions is to protect the main family.
I'm sorry, but main family?
Yes, and that's why I would dirty myself, if need be, to protect her. The daughter of the master of the Quran channeling technique. Mystic Maya Fey.
Huh? Wake up and smell the coffee, Trite. She's naming Maya? Order in the court. So not only did you witness the murder, you know the name of the murderer.
I'm terribly sorry, but it's true. I saw her commit the crime with my very own eyes. And then I cleaned up the area to try to protect her.
That's ridiculous. Maya can never do such a... The defense will refrain from commenting until the appropriate time. Now, witness, let's hear your testimony. What exactly happened on the night of the crime?
Yes, Your Honor.
I thought I was prepared for the unexpected, but I never imagined the case would wind up going in this direction.
I went to the inner temple that night and I saw it all happen in the garden. I saw Mystic Elise strike Mystic Maya with her staff. While Mystic Maya was still stumbling, Mystic Elise moved in to deliver a fatal strike. Mystic Maya tried desperately to defend herself and stole the weapon. It was only in self-defense. You can't blame her for it.
So it was in self-defense?
Yes, Mystic Elise was the one who attacked first. That's why I tried my best to protect Mystic Maya.
You moved the victim's body to the temple so that Maya wouldn't be suspected. Hold on a minute. I go to the... Oh, okay. Isn't that right? Not bad. You've got the instincts of a true criminal. Something's not quite right. I'm sure it was established yesterday that Iris never went to the inner temple that night, and that the person who did go was that woman. Iris even admitted it. Now then, Mr. Wright, please proceed with your cross-examination. Okay, hold on a minute. So there's that contradiction, and then there's the one where nobody knows, what, that, like, there was a sword hidden inside the cave. You're saying that the victim attacked Miss Faye?
Yes, it was a truly frightening scene. Mystic Maya was struck hard on the head and it looked like she was going to collapse.
What were you doing at the time? Why didn't you stop them from fighting?
I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Wright. I was frightened. I couldn't move. I couldn't even speak. I was in such shock.
That's perfectly understandable, my dear. This doesn't sound right. I don't believe this testimony for a minute. What happened after that? She moved in to deliver a fatal strike?
Yes, I'm sure of it. She threw down her staff and reached into her robe for a weapon.
Wait a minute. What was this weapon?
It was some kind of dagger.
A dagger, huh? And Elise Nim tried to stab her with this weapon? To kill Miss Faye?
Yes, exactly.
Ha! You look like I did after I mistakenly took a swig of Worcestershire sauce. Do you have a problem with the testimony we're hearing from your client, Roller Boy? Do I have a problem with Iris's testimony? I think there is one thing. Your Honor, I have a small problem with the witness's testimony. You do? But this witness is your own client. Yes, well, nevertheless. That's fine. Witness, let's add your last statement to the testimony.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just a moment. It's my job to say that. Listen, Gramps. I won't say it again. Final judgment will be rendered by me. Ugh! Okay, now let's continue. Okay, this is what doesn't make sense. We're good. Sister Iris, there's something strange about your version of events.
Huh?
Miss Nim throwing her staff away makes no sense at all to me.
But you can do that with a staff. Wait, but all you can do with a staff is hit someone.
Naturally, you wouldn't know this, Sister Iris, but the victim's staff had a special feature about it. As you can see, it's a sword. If Elise Nim really had wanted to kill Maya Faye, she wouldn't have needed to use a separate dagger, not when she already had a beautiful blade in her hands already. Well, Sister Iris, what do you have to say? That was an impressive bit of investigating, Wright. I never would have thought there was a sword hidden in that staff. But even so, how should I put this? A long sword is unwieldy, and thus quite ineffective in close quarters combat. Maybe that's why she chose a dagger over her blade. Well... Anyway, the type of weapon she chose to use isn't what's important. The important thing is that she tried to kill Maya Faye. As long as there's nothing strange about that, there's no problem with her testimony. But there is something strange about this whole testimony. Well, Mr. Wright, the prosecution has a point. Very well, Your Honor. The defense will now present evidence to back its argument.
Mr. Wright!
I have here another piece of evidence that shows that this testimony can't be trusted. Because Miss Elise Nim would never attempt to take the life of Maya Faye. Yeah, that's... Elise Nim would never have attacked Maya Faye.
How can you be so sure?
Because the victim's real name was not Elise Nim. Her real name was... Misty Faye. Faye?
No! Not Mystic Misty Faye!
Who is this Misty Faye? Is she related to... Misty Faye is the master of the Kurine channeling technique. She is also... the mother of Maya Faye. Are you serious?
Is it really true, Mr. Wright? Was Elise DeSmuMe actually the great Mystic Misty?
There's no doubt about it. Looks like Iris had no idea.
I can hardly believe it.
The idea that she would try to kill her only daughter, one she hadn't seen in 17 years. Perhaps the prosecution can offer some explanation for why she would do such a thing. Ugh. Order in the court. Upon first hearing the witness's testimony, it seemed natural enough. However, in light of some facts that have just been presented, one, that the victim supposedly threw away a sword during the fight, and two, that the two people battling to the death were mother and daughter, despite the facts being believable when taken on their own. When taken together, the entire story seems difficult to believe. Listen, there's nothing in this world that is impossible, except for one little thing. Yes, what is this one little impossible thing? Ha! You still don't get it. You think maybe my beans are under-roasted, but you have no idea, Gramps. Could you get to your point? I heard this witness's confession this morning, just as I had taken the first sip of my 8th cup of morning coffee. You're going to ruin your health, my friend. Anyway, after hearing this woman's confession, I had a detective who loves to investigate sent to the scene of the crime. And he discovered this little beauty. Is that the dagger that the witness testified to seeing? Obviously, Your Honor. But do you not notice something else? Now that you mention it, if you look closely, there appears to be a bloodstain. Where did you find that? I didn't see that when I investigated the crime scene. Did you investigate the pine tree at the crime scene? Huh? The pine tree? This dagger was stuck in the back side of the pine tree when the last blow was struck, ending the violent battle between the two women. This little baby was thrown in the direction of the back of the pine tree. Which means the blood on the dagger belongs to the victim, correct? Ha! Were you even listening, old man? I first heard this confession this morning, just as I had taken the first sip of my 13th cup of morning coffee. Didn't you say it was your 8th just a few minutes ago? I didn't have enough time to get the blood analyzed on such short notice. In any case, this court will accept the dagger as evidence. Furthermore, I order that a blood test be performed on it immediately. This is my sweetheart. Make sure you treat her right. Bailiff, get this piece of evidence to the crime lab for testing immediately. Now then, the testimony we've heard had numerous unbelievable aspects to it. However, after having found the very dagger the witness spoke of, I believe we can consider her testimony to be credible. Cute girls never lie. Ever. In any case, witness, if you could please testify again to this court.
About what, Your Honor?
About the incident you saw. The battle between the two women.
Yes, Your Honor. Mystic Maya stumbled briefly after being hit over the head with the staff, but then she dodged Mystic Elisa's next attack and stole her weapon. Suddenly, Mystic Elise was the one on the defensive with her back to the stone lantern. That's when Mystic Maya stabbed Mystic Elise. Mystic Elise managed to fling the knife away, but then she collapsed.
That was a very heartbreaking story.
I don't know if there were any bad feelings between them, but it had been 17 years since Mystic Misty's disappearance. Perhaps they simply didn't recognize each other anymore.
That seems reasonable. Now then, Mr. Wright, proceed with your cross-examination. Okay. Let's see. Mystic Maya stumbled briefly after being hit over the head with the staff, but then she dodged Mystic Elise's next attack and stole her weapon. Suddenly, Mystic Elise was the one on the defensive with her back to the storm. Something about you just isn't right today, Iris.
Huh?
Until now, I didn't think you were the type to make such a careless mistake. However, the testimony you just gave contains quite a few contradictions.
What do you mean? What's so wrong about my testimony?
According to you, Maya Fey stabbed the victim who had her back to the stone lantern, correct?
Yes, that's right.
But in that case, the victim would have been stabbed in the stomach, right? Yes, I think so. But, according to the autopsy report, the cause of death was due to blood loss from a stab wound in her back. This proves that the victim was stabbed from behind, not from the front. Sister Iris, it appears another seed of doubt has sprouted from your testimony. What is the meaning of this, Mr. Wright? Ha! It's simple. People are like books. We've all got a front and back. You get my drift? Is that all you have to say? I can also say that darkness loves to play with the human mind. Could you please knock it off with the cheesy proverbs and illogical metaphors already? The point is, too much of this testimony just doesn't make sense. Throwing away a useful staff, the people fighting being mother and daughter. And now she falsely claims the victim was stabbed in the stomach. There was certainly some inconsistencies. Well, Iris, how about it?
Well, it's just...
If you ask me, you're just being too naive about the whole thing. What do you mean? There are 253 distinct types of bitterness in coffee, but to pick out each one requires total concentration and the use of all the senses. Were you really concentrating on what this witness actually said? Prosecutor Godot, explain yourself. The witness was quite unambiguous about her own ambiguities when she said that the garden was dark and she couldn't see clearly. A human needs one thing to see clearly, and that is light. Light! By the way, did you know? The Inner Temple has a rule that on nights when an acolyte is there training, the stone lantern in the garden is to always be lit. I did wonder about that stone lantern. Well, if that's true, shouldn't the witness have been able to see the crime more clearly? Normally, yes, Your Honor. But according to the head nun, Sister Bikini, on the night of the crime, it was impossible to light that stone lantern. Impossible? It hadn't been used in a long time and the wick was no good. In other words, it had to be nearly pitch black in that garden that night. There could have been a faint light coming from the training hall, but that's all. Most enlightening. Yes, that illuminating fact has chased all the contradictions away. If the staff was dropped, it would be difficult to see. It also explains why they didn't recognize each other. We can't see the demons that lurk in the night. That's why humans are weak. Isn't that right, Trite? No! But the stone lantern had to have been lit that night. Because the area around the stone lantern was, devoid of snow. Why is the judge just sitting there with that look on his face? What's wrong, Your Honor? Was that flame too hot? This lantern, there's something written on it. Why, it's written in blood. Oh boy. So the judge didn't know about that yet. Written in blood? It says Maya upside down. What the?
Oh, yes, that's right. After being cornered and then stabbed by Mystic Maya, Mystic Elise didn't fall down right away. She must have been writing that on the stone lantern behind her, with the blood that was draining out of her body.
It certainly looks that way. Hang on just a minute. What are you all talking about? What do you mean, what are we all talking about? We're talking about the message written in blood. Nonsense. This lantern, it's as clean as a whistle. Could it be? He can't see the bloody writing at all? Now that I think of it, he did say something to me yesterday. My eyesight is pretty messed up. Even with these huge goggles on my head, I still can't see everything. So that's what he meant by that. In any case, this is obviously an important clue. We now know that the crime scene was dark, and that the victim scrawled this message on the stone lantern. Well, Mr. Godot, anything further? Mr. Godot? Okay then, let's move on. Godot is literally shaking, and somehow, I don't think it's from the caffeine overdose. I believe it has now been established that Mr. Nim was killed by Maya Fey. That's just wrong! Now it's time to turn our attention to you.
Yes, sir.
After the victim died, you did something, didn't you? Let's hear it. We're all ears.
After Mystic Elise died, I called out to Mystic Maya. I thought it was my duty to protect the future master of the Kuren tradition, so I removed the body from the inner temple myself. I dragged it behind me all the way across Dusky Bridge. And then I used the snowmobile to carry it back to Hazakura Temple and... I used the Shichishito to alter the way the wound looked.
So you moved the body?
Yes, I was raised at Hazakura Temple. I owe a great deal of thanks to the Fey clan, but even so, I never imagined that Elise de Nim was actually Misty Fey. I've committed a terrible sin.
A terrible trick of fate. I believe you're looking for a twist of fate, Your Honor.
I intended to return to the inner temple after taking care of the body, but...
You were spotted by the head nun, correct?
Yes, and that's why I couldn't go back.
Your story makes sense, I suppose. Mr. Wright, go ahead with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Alright, I think that's where we're going to stop for today. Roll the end card.
Objection! You haven't hit like and subscribe yet! Hold it! You forgot to ring the bell to get notified whenever I upload! Take that! Click here to watch more of my videos! Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye!